As I sat down for Final Destination Bloodlines, I had me a premonition myself, and that was, old Billy's in for one hell of a good movie. Welcome to Miss Marks. I'm Billy Joe, and today we're talking about Final Destination Bloodlines. Fortunately, my premonition came to be true because I thoroughly enjoyed this movie all the way through. A few moments where it could have been improved on, but on the whole, this was a solid entry into the Final Destination series. And we're going to take a moment and tell you why. Bloodlines is the 6th entry in the Final Destination series, and I'm going to tell you, we come in hot with one of the best, if not the best, and honestly, old Billy says it is the best, premonition moment in the entire series. If you're not familiar, Final Destination movies typically start out with the main character having a moment where they see everybody around them and themselves dying in some sort of massive tragic accident, and then they wake up and prevent it from happening. That's going to happen here, except there's a little bit of a twist. I actually enjoyed this. There's only so many times that you can do something without it getting stale. However, at the same time, you're going to have a lot of fans that they're going to be pretty upset if you try to make some changes to the thing that they've come to know and love. Like Final Destination. Premonition, that's a big part of the plot. Bloodlines manages to find a really nice barrier between good and evil in this sense that they do still take the thing that everybody has come to love the franchise for, but they put a nice spin on it so that it does keep it a little bit fresh. Not enough to make it a significant difference, but just fresh enough that this is something, hey, I don't think I've seen this before. The premonition is the hallmark of Final Destination. It's carried the franchise through highs and lows. I'm looking at you. Yeah. With this change, rather than experiencing the immediate fallout of the premonition, we see a bit of a grander scale savior in the terms of Iris, who is the center of the premonition. This larger scale allows her to create such a huge ripple effect in death that entire generations, or bloodlines, if you will, are able to be created before death can fully catch up. As a result of dealing with all that catching up on the generations, we skip ahead in the movie and focus on Iris's granddaughter, who is now tasked with helping her moderately unbearable and miserable family deal and prepare for death's approach. As usual, it's going to come with a few skeptics. Pretty typical in Final Destination that you're going to have some people who kind of have that real world approach to it, you know? I mean, one thing I do appreciate is that nowhere in these movies do they ever have a moment where you feel like it's not entirely applicable in real life. If someone walked up to you today and said, hey, I seen this event and death is coming for people one by one because I prevented them from dying, don't act like you're not going to look at them with a little bit of a side eye and question their sanity. As usual, to determine just how good of a movie Final Destination Bloodlines is, we're going to take a look at the missed mark method. We're going to start off with the made marks. Now, you shouldn't have to have a premonition to foretell that action, in this case, kills, are going to be the number one thing that are the contributor to this movie. Final Destination as a franchise, outside of the first one, has really become known for its creative ways of killing people. That's essentially what people at this point have come to see the movie for. I mean, you're not really here to see any revolutionary storyline or award-winning acting performances by any means, but you know, the movie it knows what it does well. It does kills well, and it focuses in on doing the killing well. This entry in particular, in my opinion, has some of the best kills in the entire franchise, one of which has actually received a nomination from me for Kill of the Year. I'm not going to go into any details on that because I do want you to be able to go in without any kind of spoilers on that. I want you to be able to not feel like, oh, this has got to be the one. This has got to be the moment that Billy told me about. I want you to be able to take it in fresh and not have to worry about that. So, not going to go into any details, but I do think that when you see this kill, you're going to know that's the one, and you're going to know why, because it is something else. So, some really amazing kills are going to put this one up there. We're going to start off hot with action, getting a 1.5 star contribution. And that is the max that one factor can get. Next up, we're going to talk about some of the effects and how they contributed to make the movie what it was. Final Destination has absolutely become known for having some of the more over-the-top, ridiculous effects to mirror its kills. But in some instances, it's been a little bit too much and actually kind of taken away from the kills, made everything feel a little bit corny. I'm looking at you again. But in this one, I feel like they find a really nice balance between the over-the-top corny effects while also not going too far and kind of keeping it into a concise moment of, okay, that was funny. I still felt the weight of the kill. The kill was nice. It was a little funny and didn't really make me feel like, okay, oh my gosh, this looks so stupid. But with that being said, I do think you should kind of go into this one knowing this is a Final Destination movie. Kills are going to be a little corny. Don't have any heightened anticipations, for any of y'all Terrifier fans out there. But I enjoyed the effects. I felt like they were a nice compliment to the kills. And for that, we're going to go ahead and give it 1-star contribution for the effect. Lastly, on the main marks, we're going to talk a little bit about the cast. Now, most of the folks in this movie actually are really insufferable, but I feel like that's what they were told to do. The family is not supposed to be your best friend. They're not supposed to feel like characters that you really connect with. And they do a great job in doing that. You really kind of want to see them die. I think that's important in the way that they've shifted the tone of these movies. Whereas in the original, there were a few characters that you don't necessarily cheer for them to die, I don't want to get into any details in case somebody watching this hasn't seen the first one. Because you don't really have to watch all the other Final Destinations to watch this one, so I'm not going to get into it. But there are characters in the first one and the second one where it's just kind of like, oh man, I hope you don't die. In Bloodlines, I found myself pretty actively cheering for the deaths of most of the cast, including the main character, which is unfortunate. But the good news is she doesn't really command a whole lot of the screen time. She shares it really well with everybody, and it's less of a story of her and more of a story of the family. So I feel like they did a good job at sharing that. No one cast member, aside from a couple instances, were anything greater than standard, and they didn't really hold anybody too accountable to carry the weight of the movie. Speaking of the cast members that did do a little bit above and beyond, I think everybody knows one of the people that we're talking about, and probably both of them as well. We'll start off with Tony Todd. Tony Todd's contribution to this movie is it's just so heartfelt. It felt real. And, anybody that's a fan of horror and a fan of Final Destination, this is the scene that really makes this movie special. It makes this movie more than just a Final Destination movie. It makes it something that felt like this was his goodbye. And I don't want to go into any details on it. There's some stuff in the trailer, but his scene really was probably my favorite thing in the movie. It really made me kind of tear up a little bit, and honestly, it actually kind of helped the rest of the movies, because all along, you're never mad that you see Tony Todd in the movies. Nobody's ever complained about getting a Tony Todd scene in Final Destination, but at the same time, the characters always kind of felt a little, why are you here? I'm glad you're here, but why are you here? So this one actually does a pretty good job to explain and answer that question. I think it retcons the movies perfectly. And it really fits well in the universe of Final Destination. And then there's one particular member of the family that nobody wanted to see die. And if you've followed anything on social media about this movie, you know exactly who I'm talking about. I'm talking about this guy right here. This dude, man, what can I say? We're pretty thankful for his inclusion. Pretty thankful. Like I said, no one cast member does anything that they're not supposed to do. They are very annoying, but I feel like they're supposed to be to kind of make you a little bit less impacted by their death. A lot of really great humor, and I feel like the cast does carry out their roles well to make that humor above and beyond. And for the contributions of Tony Todd and homeboy over here, we're going to go ahead and give this a 1-star contribution for the cast. As for the missed marks, I really don't have any major complaints about this one. It didn't really do anything too terribly that you wouldn't expect it not to do. Everything was really solid. There was nothing really terrible. And for that reason, the only thing that we're actually going to put here in the missed mark is plot. And we're not going to give it a huge detrimental to it, because there were some really nice innovations. I felt like the use of the bloodline method was a really fresh take. And kind of kept you on your toes a bit with one of the twists in the movie. That was really well appreciated. Unfortunately, there are a few instances where we have some pacing issues, particularly in the third act. It does feel a bit rushed, a bit weird, and some of the items in the movie just don't really make a whole lot of sense. So the grandmother Iris, who is in the premonition in the beginning, she has this fortress where she's hiding from death, and this is not something that's unfamiliar to Final Destination, as you've seen in Final Destination 2, where one of the characters is hiding from death. in a padded room where nothing is allowed. But Iris, on the other hand, chooses to live in what I could only think to call of as a genius kill facility. I mean, I don't know how she managed to make it that long. Usually these Final Destination people are kind of scared and have PTSD and avoid sharp objects or literally anything that would be found in Iris's death facility. But it worked for her, so I guess whatever works. Me personally, I'm not necessarily feared that death is coming after me, but I wouldn't really want to live in that thing either because, I mean, dude, did you see it? Well, now that we know our pros, we know our cons, our made marks, our missed marks, where it went right, where it went wrong, we're going to come to that conclusion and give this one a rating of 4 stars. This one is just off mark. I really feel like this one does everything you're really looking for it to do. If you're a Final Destination fan, I think you're going to enjoy this one. I certainly don't think you're going to hate it. And if you're not a Final Destination fan and you are looking to get into the franchise, I can see this being a solid starting point just from the fact of it is enjoyable. It's not one of the worst entries in the series. Kills are fun. Plot's not terrible. Really, the only one that I feel like the plot was incredible was the first one. I don't think this is the greatest entry in the franchise. I do still put that as the first one just because it feels like a more complete movie compared to the others, whereas they didn't know what they had yet. They had this interesting idea, this premise, and they kind of executed it on a more subtle note. Some of the kills were pretty minor in terms of the grand scale that we've gotten over the years. You know, it felt more serious. It felt more impactful. And it's okay that they haven't tried to do that again. It's okay. Things move on. You have to adapt and evolve. And they know what their moneymaker is. It's on the absolutely insane kills. For that, I say this is an absolutely great entry into the series. Not the best, but far from the worst. I actually rank it number 2 myself, just behind the original. And if you're looking to introduce somebody to it, I think this is a solid way to do it. It's new, it's fresh, and it's a really nice movie. I enjoyed it. I don't think there's anything that I would really change about it outside of a few things with the plot. But not everything's perfect. And I think off mark is a very fair, solid rating for this one. So there we have it. Being an off mark, I do highly recommend going to see this one in theaters. I think that it was a really enjoyable experience to be able to see the kills on the big screen and kind of experience that with the community, kind of having that reaction together and shock and awe and ooh, ah, it was really fun. I enjoyed it. Support the franchise because, especially with this being Tony Todd's last movie, would love to see this one kind of make a nice bolstering run for the numbers. I highly recommend seeing this in the movie. And if you've already missed it, because I know this review is a little late, then when it comes to streaming, absolutely set up a movie night, watch it. You don't even need to watch the other Final Destinations. If you can't go to the theater, take the time and stream it. I think it's worth the watch. Speaking of worth the watch, thank you for watching. I'm not anything worth watching myself. I'm just some goofus in front of a camera. But you made it this far, and for that I thank you. If you have enjoyed your time here, I ask that you please like the video and subscribe to the channel to see when the new ones come. I am currently catching up on a few for the month of May. I did fall a little bit behind because of going on some vacation, but once I get caught up, I'm going to try and have reviews for the new releases relatively close to the time that they come out. Until next time, I'm Billy Joe, and in Final Destination Bloodline, I was not a missed mark.